Let's take a look at the practice exercises from the section 2.4 worksheet. Here we're solving a formula for one of its variables. So we want to solve P equal A plus B plus C for B. So we want to isolate B on one side of the equation. This is pretty straightforward. I need to subtract A and C from both sides of the equation. So that does what I need. I have P minus A minus C on the right side of my equation, and that equals to B, which is on the right side of the equation. So I've actually done here what the problem has asked me to do. I've solved this equation for B. So if you have P, A, and C, you would subtract A and subtract C from P in order to obtain the value of B. So this is our final answer. Here I want to solve A equal to P plus PRT for R. So I want any term that has R in it on one side of the equals and everything that doesn't have an R in it on the other side of the equals. So in this case, that just involves subtracting P from both sides. So now on the left, I have A minus P, and on the right, I simply have PRT. And in order to solve for R, I'll need to divide both sides of the equation by PT. And notice how the P's divide out and the T's divide out. So on the right side, you're simply left with an R. On the left side, you have A minus P divided by PT. So notice when you've actually solved an equation correctly for the specified variable, notice that that variable doesn't show up on the other side of the equation. It only shows up on the one side when you've completed your work, and it is the only thing on that side of the equation. It does not appear, the variable you're solving for does not appear on the other side of the equation when you have solved and worked correctly. Here we have A equal to 1/2 H times the sum A plus B. We want to solve this for B. Well, the first thing I recommend in a problem like this is to clear the fractions. You only have one fraction, so there's one denominator, and that denominator is 2. So I'm going to multiply every term of the equation by 2. So I multiply A times 2 on the left. I multiply 2 times 1/2 H. Times the sum A plus B. So the thing to note here is that on this right side, this 2 in the denominator divides one time into the 2 that was my multiplier. So I now don't have any fractions, and I have that 2a equals h times a plus b. Keep in mind you're solving for b. Now you have a couple things you can do at this point. So we'll kind of show the two routes. You can divide both sides by h at this point if you want to. And you're left with 2a over h equals a plus b. And now, since we're solving for b, we're simply going to subtract lowercase a from both sides of the equation. So we have 2 capital A over h minus lowercase a equals to b. So this is a correct answer in an acceptable form, and you're finished if you do it that way. Now the other thing that you could do is distribute the h on the right side. So you'd have 2a equals ha plus hb. We're solving for b, so we want to move anything from the right side that doesn't have a b in it. So we'll subtract ha from both sides of the equation. And when I subtract it on the right side, it disappears from that side of the equation. Now to solve for b, I simply am going to divide both sides by the coefficient of b, which is h. So b is equal to 2a minus ha over h. And that actually is the final answer for this one. Okay, let's solve E equals k minus m over k for m. Well, the first thing I'm going to do, of course, is clear fractions. And there's only one fraction, so there's only one denominator. So I'm going to multiply k times the left side of the equation, as well as times the right side, k minus m over k. And I'm solving for m. So notice on the left, I now have ke. On the right, these k's divide, the denominator k divides into the numerator k to give 1. So ke equals k minus m. I'm solving for m, so I want to subtract k from both sides. So this is ke minus k equals negative m. because when I did this subtraction right here, that went to 0, leaving me with simply a minus m. So I just need to multiply both sides of the equation by minus 1. So minus 1 times ke minus k, and minus 1 times negative m. So this gives me negative 1 times negative k is k. Negative 1 times ke is negative ke. And that equals m. Notice I multiplied the negative m by negative 1. So negative 1 times negative m is positive m. All right, now here we're going to find r if P equals R minus C, and P is 2500 and C is 1800. So I want to find R. So I'm going to replace P with 2500. So that equals R minus C. And R is actually what I'm searching for. Minus C, which is 1800. So when I add 1800 to 2500, on the left I get 4300. On the right, I simply have R. So R would be 4300 if P is 2500 and C is 1800. So how long will it take Corey? This is number 6 on our practice exercises on worksheet 2.4. How long will it take Corey to drive 210 miles if he averages 75 miles per hour on the trip? So we want to remember that distance equals rate times time. We want to find out how long will it take Gary to travel 210 miles if he averages 75 miles per hour on the trip. So the distance is 210. The rate is 75 for 75 miles per hour. The time is what we don't know. Okay, so to solve for t, I need to divide 210 miles by 75 miles per hour. That gives me my t, and if my math lab told you to answer an integer or simplified fraction, you would want to divide both of these by numerator and denominator by 5. And that actually gives 42. And then the numerator you actually, the numerator you divided by 5. You also want to divide that denominator by 5, which gives you 15. And so we didn't get the biggest number because 3 divides into both of these. So you have to really check. Sometimes you aren't finished because you haven't taken this all the way. But we're going to divide by 3 here. So it's 3 that we want to divide by. Then we'll be dividing 3 into 75. 3 into 15. So 42 divided by 3 is 14. 15 divided by 3 is 5. So it takes 14 out of 5. So 5 goes into 14 twice, and I have a remainder of 4. And that goes into what I was dividing by. Sorry, I meant to write a 5 here, not a 4. Chances are great that your My Math lab won't accept a mixed number, so you would have to enter in 14 over 5. Let's look back at what our question was here. Our question was, how long will it take Corey to drive 210 miles if he averages 75 miles per hour on the trip? So it takes him almost 3 hours, but not quite. So it takes 14 over 5 hours. So 14 over 5 hours, or 2.8 hours, for him to travel 210 miles. That was it we've been working with over this period of time. So it takes Corey, it takes 14 over 5 hours. This is in hours, so we want to include that. For Corey to travel 210 miles. So that's actually our final answer. And then our final question is asking how much principal should be invested in a savings account paying 6% simple interest if you want to earn $570 in interest in 2 years. Now, interest, simple interest, is principal times rate times time. We want to find out how much principal should be invested at 6% to earn $570 in interest in 2 years. So I is 570.06, looking right here, is the interest rate. And that gets multiplied by my P, which my P is really what I'm trying to find. And then the time period here is 2 years. So P times 0.12 has to equal 570. So I can divide both sides of this by 0.12. So we now have P isolated, which is what we want when we're trying to find the principal. So in order for this investment at 6% to earn 570 interest in 2 years, P has to equal, when I divide 570 by 0.12, it has to equal $4,750 in order for the interest to be $570. So the principal should be $4,750. And then the interest at 6% on a $570 will be $570.